I have worked with moms for, almost 15 years. I am a mom of two teenagers as well. And if there is one thing that all moms seem to agree on, it is that exhaustion is just a constant companion throughout motherhood. Between the poor sleep and the nutrient depletion, and there's endless responsibilities, it's no wonder that so many of us feel drained. But what if that fatigue is actually our bodies asking for something deeper? Carrie, this question I'm going to direct to you, and then any of the other experts, please jump in if you have anything you'd like to add. From a nutrition standpoint, what are the most common reasons moms feel so depleted, and how can they start to gently support their energy again?
I always encourage moms to pause and ask why they're feeling the way that they do. I feel like exhaustion shouldn't be accepted as just a normal part of motherhood. Sure, there's busy seasons where we're just getting through, like you said, and we're just surviving, and that's understandable. But I feel like if the fatigue continues to linger, then it's definitely worth looking into closer. From a nutrition perspective, I would say some of the most common reasons that I see women feeling so depleted are we're having some nutritional deficiencies. Maybe we have some blood sugar imbalances, some digestive issues. And then, of course, the stress overload and the sleep deprivation, like you mentioned, definitely play a role as well. And then if we're thinking pregnancy and breastfeeding, especially are times that our bodies are giving so much that our nutrient stores can really take a hit. And then on top of that, like you shared, we're caring for everyone else. It's easy to forget about ourselves, skipping meals, just kind of grabbing the scraps off your kid's plate, forgetting to drink water. And over time, that really adds up. So I think if we're going to try to kind of slowly build our energy again, I would say check your labs, like reach out to one of your providers and see if they can investigate if there is something deeper going on, thinking of our iron levels, our B12, our vitamin D, our thyroid, what's our blood sugar look like, and then seeing at home if we can build out balanced meals, aiming for some protein, some fiber, some healthy fats at each of the meal, along with plenty of water. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just trying the best that we can. And then building in maybe some small moments of calm to try to calm down if we're feeling extra stressed. Maybe that's a short walk. Maybe that's just a few deep breaths. Maybe that's listening to a podcast. But just helping kind of your body kind of reset a little and get out of survival mode and really start to restore.
Carrie, one of the things that you said that was a great segue into my next question, which is directed to Nikki. Of course, anyone, please jump in, is that exhaustion is not the norm. We might think it's the norm because we're all experiencing it, but it can get to a point where it's not normal. And Nikki, I'd like to talk to you for this next question, that so many moms just assume that exhaustion is just part of the deal of being a parent, having all of the responsibilities and whatnot. How can we tell when fatigue is a sign of something deeper? Carrie had mentioned hormonal imbalance or burnout. How can we tell when fatigue is a sign of something deeper, like a
Mhm.
hormonal imbalance or burnout? And when do we know to come to a facility to get special attention?
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of walking that line there, right? Of what's normal, what's
Definitely.
not. And we know, like I'm just kind of echoing some of what Carrie said, there's going to be days or seasons where we may feel a little bit more stretched thin. This question resonated with me because when I was a first time mom, I went to my primary care provider several months into things. I was back to work and I said, I'd like to take a deeper dive on my labs. I'm feel like I'm kind of have this chronic fatigue issue going on. And she looked at me and she said, "You're a working mom. That's all it is." And I thought, this is not right. And thus began some of my personal shifts with things. But I think, listen to your gut, know yourself. And you do have to look at kind of the patterns that are going on and the chronicity of things, right? You can step back, you can evaluate what's going on. Is this just a season? Are we doing, am I doing too much? Like, am I plugged into work? Are we doing competitive sports? Are we, am I stretching myself thin on a time frame? But either way, I think we oftentimes chalk up symptoms to, it's my demands, it's the schedule. But you have to trust yourself. And I think there's always a place, even if it's preventatively, to get with your trusted provider, collaborate. It's great to have some lab work, because then you have data that's matching with, like, hey, these are my clinical symptoms. And you can really look at this from a holistic, whole body approach. And, these are going to be, like Carrie said, discussing, some of the basics too, like hydration, caffeine, sleep. But when you have some lab data, I think that can be very helpful. And whether this is postpartum, whether this is in the throes of raising teenagers, perimenopause, these are critical times for women, for thyroid health, sex hormone health, and as Carrie said too, iron. And these can be some underlying issues that we will see that can be linked to or causative of the fatigue problem. And so I think it's imperative to not discount everything to, this is my life right now, the demands of the schedule. So I think that's when those symptoms are affecting your day to day, that's the time to dive a little deeper.
It's a great point that you made, where as parents, we all say, this is just how it is. I'm just supposed to be tired. So thank you for clarifying that. And I'd like to pull Kate into this chat on the topic of, quote unquote, is this normal? The stage that moms are in when they're feeling really run down. What do you suggest moms do at home? Do you have additional feedback and pointers that you'd like to add in to Nikki and Carrie's statements from before?
Yeah, I love this question because it really centers the woman as the expert on her own body. I think we live in this hustle culture in our society that your value is based on your productivity, but, really stepping back and being like, no, this is not right. I need to get help for this. In my workshops, I talk a lot about these basic pillars, echoing what some of the other providers were saying around basics like sleep, nutrition, getting movement, and then also the household rebalance after having a kid. You have all your old activities that you were doing that you're now put additional responsibilities on as new parents, and really evaluating those and seeing if there's any low-hanging fruit that you can make adjustments to, trying that for a week. And then, if you're not getting the results that you're hoping for, coming in. Exceptions to that would be if you're really struggling through the day, not able to care for yourself, your kids, things like shortness of breath, headaches, dizziness, pain, all those are cues to come in sooner, right away. But when we do meet up, just trying to figure out what's going on together, it's always a collaboration. And it could be troubleshooting, getting you more support at home, again, drawing labs, looking at other things like hormone balance, getting mental health support, and medication if you need it. But making a personalized plan based on where you're at and what your needs are, and then also deciding what kind of follow-up you think you need. It's a good place to start.
I actually have been surprised by the number of women who so diligently take their prenatal supplements during pregnancy and then completely fall off of their supplement regimen in the postpartum time period. And a lot of them aren't given guidance by their primary birth provider about continuing supplementation. But I think a lot of postnatal depletion, is not cured by any means by simply taking a few supplements, but the longevity of missing out on daily supplementation. Our soil is so depleted at this point that you need supplementation pretty much anywhere in the United States where you live in order to ensure that you're getting enough basic nutrients. And so women who are so regular about doing that during their pregnancy tend to fall off of that habit in the postpartum time period. And that's a way of getting the B vitamins back into your system and really kind of filling in some of the nutritional gaps that might be happening. Paying attention to all the things that everyone else has so eloquently said is truly important. That's one of those things that, like Kate was saying, some of the low-hanging fruit. I consider a daily supplementation routine to be pretty low-hanging fruit, even though there is obviously a cost to that. And there's the like additional thing that you need to remember every day. But when I tell my patients, like gratefully now there are actually postnatal supplements that are available, but I tell my patients just at baseline, continue to take a prenatal until you're done nursing your very last baby, because as soon as you're done nursing, you're now preconception for the next kid if you're planning on having any. And so continuing that daily supplementation, I think, is a way that we can fairly easily continue to give ourselves the nutrients that we so desperately need in the postpartum time period.